बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला सय्यिदिना मुहम्मदिन व अला अली सय्यिदिना मुहम्मदिन व बारिक व सल्लिम। Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi everyone. Thank you everyone for joining, and my special thanks to all our honorable guests, and special thanks to the sponsor. So we don't have much time, so let's inshallah start. First of all, a level set that digital transformation is not about just a presentation and just one single webinar. It's a journey, it's a step towards digitization. And naturally, we see it as a solution. The entire digital revolution 4.0, 5.0, it's all about digitizing, automating process. Why? Because we want to grow. And I think this is where we are lagging today. As a Islamic finance industry, uh, uh, as one small person in that industry, and based on my experience uh, on the front line, we have seen that we are not able to grow much. It's just because we need to change the operating model, and the operating model we're going to discuss about today is digital banking, and then how we can solve it, how can we start working towards it, inshallah. So with that, inshallah, let's start the presentation. First of the thing, one of the thing I want to highlight here uh, is a lot of brothers have asked me in a couple of weeks back. They have asked me that what is the difference between a digital and new bank. They both look same. Uh, they work same. It's not like that. They are different. So different as in digital bank are offshoot of the existing fully commercial Islamic bank. More or less bigger players start first, and they go into the digitization fast than the smaller banks. They are regulated. They have better brand reputation and customer trust because they have been operating for so many years. They are able to leverage their existing infrastructure to accelerate growth. Sales, resources, branches, everything is already there. They once they go mobile, they go they go app based. They are able to grow much faster. They have more opportunity. They are more opportunity for them to scale. New banks, on the other hand, they are independent to traditional bank. They start as a fintech. They are mission driven. For example, one of the new bank would start targeting travelers only, having rolling out a traveler card. One of the bank would want to solve the small medium enterprise business owner issues, so start financing there. One of the bank would be transfer related, fintech would be transfer related, but they all aspire to become a commercial bank in future. Uh, they are able to leverage new products pretty fast, such as cryptocurrency. They will be able to leverage and connect with the cryptocurrency platform pretty fast because they have started from zero, and they have modern infrastructure. So they are able to move fast, right? As a fintech, as a startup, they are able to move fast. They are very lean. In most geography, neobanks are loosely defined, and typically they don't follow any standard regulatory code. We Because they are not registered as a bank, so they can get away. Uh, Historically they have been facing a lot of challenges when it comes to regulatory, but now regulators are able. When market is now, the market is sort of understood them. Regulators are working with them now. There are new regulation coming with regards to fintech, and how, for example, sandboxing, putting a regtech stack to help fintech to test their product against the regulatory framework and whatnot. But yeah, so this is the difference between a neobank and digital bank. So with that, let's go and see what we're going to cover today. We'll start with the Islamic finance landscape, where the industry is today. Then we will discuss the barriers. We will see as a bank, a typical Islamic bank, where it's standing today, regardless whether it's a big bank, a medium, or a small bank, whatever category it is, where it stands today technically. Then we will see ways to achieve digital transformation. We're going to discuss a typical transformation roadmap, some recommendation. Uh, then we're going to see what a next gen Islamic banking platform should be. Where should you, when you start your journey, you should achieve, what should be your end goal. And then naturally we have to, there are steps towards it. but step meaning that we are not going to demolish things. Whatever we are doing, we are not going to just abandon those. We're going to start small and scale. So we start gaining the advantages of a digital bank. We start generating profit. We reduce the operating costs while we are into transformation journey. While we are doing it, it's not about we have to spend years and years on it, and then at the end we will be reaping the benefit. Uh, so what that next is Gen Islamic platform architecture, or what should look like. Uh, the HR skill gap, and this is where Natural Type is working day and night to put together absolutely exciting courses for inshallah all of you. Uh, and inshallah it will be over the cloud because Type is completely digital. Alhamdulillah, it's a completely digital platform. And then what the three questions we should ask ourselves, and then start the conversation. As I said, it's a journey, and we need to put our heads together. We need to work together, and inshallah after webinar, brother Muhammad Yellow Siddiqui will be announcing a Taif initiative. So global Islamic finance industry landscape. I know, mashallah, you guys are more senior than me. You have more knowledge than me. But just to understand the perspective here. So industry stands as of year 2018 at 2.5 trillion dollar assets. We are aiming, the target is to be somewhere, if we go with the same growth rate, we will be at somewhere 3.5 trillion in next 4 years. The compounded annual growth rate today is 3.5 year on year. The projected is 5.5 or maybe more. It's just a number. It could be 6, it could be 7, it could be 8, depending on how aggressive we go with that. And inshallah, that's our aspiration, that we need to increase the asset share. We need to fight riba, right? And we need to provide best of both of world, best of two things: the best product and services, technology enabled, which can compete with any digital conventional bank or a new bank. Plus, it's a Sharia compliant. That's the beauty of it, and I think we can position it uniquely. There's going to be absolutely a unique product for Muslim or non-Muslim, inshallah. And then with that industry, how many banks are supporting it today? We have total close to 1,500 IFIs, including the window operations, the window banks. Uh, we see the distribution of 2.5 trillion is more in Islamic banking, 70%, followed by the Sukuk, which is the 19, 20%. So about 90% is more on assets, Sukuk and Islamic bank, right? They are driving it. So what we need to do to propel those, what engine we need to fit in those two vehicles to hyper accelerate the growth. This is what we will discuss today. So holistically, Islamic banking growth has slowed in 20 from, if you compare it from 2013. So if you 2012, if you pick up 2012, which is 1.7 trillion, to 2013, which is 2 trillion, we are talking about 70% growth. While there's a dip in 2014, and then then there's a normal growth rate, but it's not as we were having 2013, or we were having in 2006, 2005, right? Double digit growth, mashallah. So historically to 6.2 compounded annual growth, expected 8.5, and again we need to inshallah increase that number. Islamic finance asset is spread. So now that 2.5 trillion, where it belongs today. So mostly it is in Iran, Saudi, Malaysia, UAE, Qatar. So if you combine it, club it, so it's like more in GCC and Malaysia. Okay. Uh, no, not much impressive growth in Bangladesh, Pakistan, Turkey, Indonesia, all those, Nigeria, beautiful, big demographics, big population size there. Bangladesh, 161 million population size, Nigeria 195, Indonesia 267, Pakistan 210 million close to. So a big chunk of half a billion people, and then the average is around is hovering around 9 to 15, 16% at max, right? Indonesia, take an example, 267 million, the largest Muslim population, and 9% asset of Islamic finance. So something is wrong. So we need to, I would not say wrong, it's something we need to do to inshallah increase that, to hyper accelerate that. So we see the concentration is there on those three markets. They own the 65% share of this entire industry, and now we know we need to grow into those other geographies, those unbanked population we need to target. It could be microfinance model, could be retail model, could be a small business model, could be any sort of banking, right? But what platform we should build to enable as an enabler. So why growth? Question we should ask that why growth is slow. It's not whatever what we expect, what we aspire, and mashallah, we are working towards it, and we aspire it to be overcoming all the conventional assets in any country, right? Whether Muslim country or non-Muslim country. So to reach its potential, Islamic banking would have to grow outside the mature market that we know as number one, very concentrated. Number two is due to the scaling factor, their high operational cost, pressure on margin, uh, a very expensive upfront capex they need to invest to scale, to invest into infrastructure to grow, to go somewhere. For example, from 100,000 customer to 3 million customer, if they want to achieve that growth rate, right, and they want to grow it, and their resources are aligned, but if their IT is same, the same legacy system, they can't do it. They have to reinvest on a lot of infrastructure, so they are not able to grow, and so they need a lightweight, quickly agile, and a good infrastructure which does not cost much, but it provides them the opportunity to scale without any hesitation, without any front loaded capital expenses. So here's a Sibafi survey on Islamic banks, and then we see they have characterized IT, the information technology, customer attraction, retention, risk management, return on equity, product offering, service quality. All those are their top concerns. So this is where they're struggling with. So right before we go into barrier, these are their concerns today. So let's talk about the barriers today. What are the barriers? So if you define barriers, the number one barrier is corporate culture. We need to have that mindset, right? The mindset which other technology companies have. So we have to work. If you want to be, if you want to become fast like fintech, and we want to scale like fintech, then we need to think like that. So think like those companies, right? And we will discuss later on how we should apply. But corporate culture is one, and the second is the legacy system, as it was concern raised on Sipafi research. Operation efficiency, speed to market is not there. These are the barriers to transform, and these are the barriers which are holding the growth of the assets. Employee training is very important. They must be trained to on the knowledge gap they have. They cannot deliver. So we have to continuously coach them, continuously guide them, and this is, inshallah, this is what the aspiration of TAIF is. To spread the awareness as well as provide the practical training to, inshallah, all those brothers and sisters who wants to contribute and upgrade their skill. And the last thing is the business case identification, that we are too busy with our business as usual BAU. We are not able to put together a business case because we are firefighting. We start in the morning, customer issues, system is down, sales target, achieve that, credit risk. My sales files are not approved, customers are not approved, so I will just go to the credit and then try to get those file out. But the share of mind, the stakeholder, the everyday focus is not on the digital transformation. I think this focus is required because execution is the key. If we put together papers, beautiful presentation, but if there's no execution, then we know there will be no outcome, right? So the complete organization alignment is required. Talent gap, as I mentioned, is as just as important as technology platform. uh, so there is a research outcome from Accenture. They have done it with the bank executive, the conventional banking or the Islamic banking, but they are having same difficulty. Legacy core banking is their biggest challenge when it comes to implementing digital transformation, or they want to implement a digital bank. Lack of a strategic focus, again, organization alignment. Channel solution have been developed separately. They are different silos. So as they are building, they just start new system and they build a new system in silo. They try to be, it's a reactive than proactive strategy. Why? Because when market asks something, you build. So you are not future proof. You are not you're not be able to adapt the change. Cybersecurity, yes, securing budget for transformation, speed to market, all those are their biggest barriers while they're implementing digital strategy. So we need to avoid that as Islamic finance, inshallah, Islamic bank. If you see on the left side, I want you to focus on the market share. So this is where the market share of the banks are today, right? And we know it's quickly iterating. Now we take example of Europe, Canada, US, mashallah, Canada, we have now Manzil Islamic Bank. So we see that because of the level of the quality of the service these fintech have, because they are addressing the direct customer pain points, customer migrating, especially those transactional customer, they just do it. Home mortgage, wealth management, yeah, because they need branch to interact still, so they go there. But the main chunk of the revenue is transaction retail customer. They are migrating. So their market share is iterating, is going down. While the fintech or the new digital business model, the people with the old business model, we know they are going down. While their with the organization institutions who have embraced the new digital business model, the digital only business model, their market share is going up. So we I think the industry as an IFI, we Islamic Finance institution organization, they are on a tipping point now. If you see there here, they feel the heat now. They feel it, especially post COVID. But it's time for them to take action. So this is I would say this is the best time. This is the right time to put together a business case. All those folks, all those my brothers, sister who are out there and they're thinking about executing this thing into their bank. They're setting up the digital bank. Please, this is the right time to do it. And inshallah, Taif, you have all support from the Taif. Feel free to reach out to us. But we still think that we have time. So let's look where we are. So competitors, they are speeding up. Fintechs are speeding up. Uh, Other conventional bank, they are speeding up. They are going to digitization heavily. Take Citibank, HSBC, all these banks are investing heavily into digitization. I was reading yesterday that Capital Bank, when I was in US working there, one of the client we had, like Capital Bank, they are now 100% on cloud. They don't have any infrastructure maintained. So we are talking about millions of consumer base, if I recall, 30 to 40 million. But yeah, that was a significant larger bank. Now I moved to a cloud computing, cloud, AWS, Amazon Web Server, and they don't have a single data center. So those guys are moving fast. We need to move fast because we also have a responsibility of growing the asset, the Islamic asset, right? That's what we want to achieve. At the end of the day, it's all about that. Uh, then uncertainty, regulatory environment is changing, conditions are changing every day, new technology is coming. So we need to be very flexible. So the platform has to be very flexible. Again, it should be future proof, and we need the right human skill set to do it. We need to upgrade ourselves. Uh, Rising legacy IT operating costs. We know that the IT budget will still go up. I mean, we can cut it, but it's an artificial thing. But when we cut it, then we are compromising the quality of the service as well. So we need to we cannot cut short our operating expense if we are not able to control we're not able to migrate into the new business model, the digital only business model. And then the more device means more channel. So any device which is coming in the market now, customer would want, saying, hey, you know what, that bank has a available app. On the iWatch, I can do transaction, I can do voice activation of my transfer. So why don't you have it? And here we are again, multi-million dollar project, multi-months project, and putting our heads together. Let's do that. And here we are again stuck with a new silo, right? Silo of the data, silo of the infrastructure. And then post COVID, everything is 10x now digitized because branches have short time now or they are shut down. Um, so COVID has just given us a sort of a big knock that it's time, please digitize. I guess may Allah protect us all. So COVID, it's a 10x now. So we need to be digitized. So we cannot afford to have a ATM which is down. We cannot afford to say that internet banking is down, or we are doing some migration, or we are doing some technical alignment enhancement, and we need to shut down the system. It's not possible right now. So we need a seamless infrastructure which does not have, for example, does end of the day will not have any impact. End of the year will not have any impact. Enhancement should not have any impact. So how those Netflix and Google and Facebook and Uber, how they are doing it, because they do changes, right? You see updates on their app, but they don't shut down, saying that hey, because we are doing some service upgrade, please bear with us. So we need to again, it's about migrating to the new business model. Then again, Sibafi, back to the Sibafi research of Islamic banking. What is the adoption of digital transformation in Islamic bank today at your bank? So 50%, 52% of the this participant have said that they are at the same level. So they have like the same as last year or maybe better. But only 5% are saying that we are ahead. So we need to really accelerate. So, as an executive, as a C level of a bank, what should drive me to shift to digital? Uh, it's not a rocket science. Very easy. We need to understand. We need to enhance customer experience, and we need to see what other these tech companies, fintechs are doing. They are providing an absolutely excellent customer experience. Take a Uber, take a food delivery app, take Netflix, take anything. It's like absolutely brilliant user experience. We have to lower the infrastructure cost by embracing tech stack. We need to develop competitive product and services. We need to increase market share through higher consumer onboarding. We should be able to reach March Spectrum unbanked on these large countries such as Bangladesh and all those. Increase back office productivity, operation efficiency through automation. See where we can start, where we can do automation. We need speed to market, so we should be able to roll out products in hours, not weeks. So inshallah, with Sharia built in and Sharia governance covering everything, all the aspects, we are able to set up products, and we are able to secure the approval. The products are ready in puzzle shape, for example. We can just quickly combine those, request Sharia um, advisory on Sharia advice, get it approved, run fast. Increase level of customer service again, using CRM, using other technical, other softwares we have to increase the level of the customer service. It should not be like I call the customer, call center, and I have to wait for 20 minutes to get a service. So time is running fast. Inshallah, I will try to cover everything. But if not, then in the QA session, please feel free to ask questions. So let's learn from the success. What other guys are doing. These Facebook, Netflix, and financial Paytm, Uber, they ensure multi-channel availability. Any device. They rely on API, right? API means API first model. They will connect. Personalized experience they rely on. Rapid service launch. They are able to do it. They have a partner ecosystem, so you can connect with any partner quickly. It's not a costly or a big exercise to connect with other ecosystem and leverage, to go those conversion customer onboarding. Frictionless payment, that you can use your card, you can use the bank transfer, whatever. You're able to do it in few seconds, and your payment is all set, right? Experimentation, they do experiments. They do experiment as in the controlled environment. They move fast, they break things in the controlled environment. They learn fast. They don't do like very conscious and analysis going into paralysis thing. They improve, and this is every day they are improving, and that's how they are able to deploy changes, enhancement very fast and without any hesitation, because they have tested it a lot of time. It's not like where traditional bank applies an enhancement and there's a customer service issue, big issue in the at the branch, at any touch point. We all know that those platforms are using website, app, software to employ economical models. Take an example of Ant Financial, $280 billion bank now. Whoa, big size, a very big bank. If you compare that bank with the traditional Chinese bank, they cost for customer acquisition, if I remember, it's like $2. But the Ant Financial or anything which connects to Ant Financial, the cost go down to 55 cents. So if we apply it to our life, in our model, naturally we are not able to achieve it. We can achieve that reduction in operating expense, right? It's just because we are not ready. The infrastructure is not there. So we need to inshallah work on it. And we will explain you that with existing infrastructure, the digital bank infrastructure can coexist, and then eventually it will evolve to a full-fledged digital bank. So let's learn. We saw the success side of it. Let's learn from the failure point, the fail case study. Blockbuster versus Netflix. I know it's not a good example because it's like we are learning something. So I will heavily discourage anyone to. This is not a Netflix promotion. Don't subscribe to Netflix. Just try to understand the underlying principle, the infrastructure they're using. So Blockbuster was annoying customer. Why they failed? Simply they did not care about their customer. It was for customer perspective from their angle. It was time consuming to visit the store. There was no catalog, no recommendation, no personalization. There was late fee. All the time I have to worry about late fee. Uh, then we don't use VCR, but I need a device to run that. Netflix on the other model, when they started like access, you can access it from everywhere. Like, it was customer driven. All the proposition, the business model was around customer. They are using heavy AI, machine learning, robots infrastructure. uh, I would say zero latency infrastructure, always available infrastructure, and infrastructure as a core model, and they are providing smart content to and it's recommending to the consumers, talking to the consumer directly. So here is my personalization. Fee structure is very clear. There's a subscription model. You subscribe to it, you will get everything, right? It's not confusing. They are available on any smart devices, just like Taif is Taif learning system. Inshallah, we're going to launch. It's a device agnostic. So this is where fail are. So we need to be like, we need to follow sort of what Netflix infrastructure is doing. So to achieve that, how, where we stand. If you compare Netflix with us today, so we are on the left side. So we are more on the digital channel presence. We think that digital is mobile app. We think that digital is chatbot. We think variable is digital. It's not. It's just like a delivery channel. The underlying, the core infrastructure is the same, right? It's like just putting us repainting a wall. It looks nice, but behind the paint, we know there are a lot of issues. So we are into web, mobile app, chatbots, variable. We should be at least at the omni-channel banking experience level, open banking API level. It should have a uh, flexible infrastructure for example, sort of payments we are accepting. So multiple ways to collect, for example, money. Or for example, is a person is able to pay from PayPal. I know it's a crazy example, but just to exaggerate things here. But naturally, we need to have an ecosystem enablement. So if we deploy, if we have a proper omni bank channel layer, for example, we can connect any device and deliver. For that, we need an open API, right, behind that. And where we know it, our aspiration should be like, we should be like Google or better than that, or Spotify or Uber better than that, or Alipay better than that. So those are more onto personalization, experimentation, configuration versus customization, because today a lot of banks, we get stuck in customization, and here we have another legacy app and we have to deal with it, because as a annual maintenance contract, I have to pay for maintaining that app, or my IT is maintaining that, and again my 30-40 minutes of the day is going just to firefight that. So we need to get away from customization. We need to go into configuration, and then the proposal we have, inshallah, is a configurable system, platform, not a customization platform. And we know that transaction customer are shifting towards heavily digital only banks, right? Fintechs. So if you see the more right we are, the more conversion retention customer base we have, and this is where the Islamic industry, inshallah, will grow. So how customer centric traditional bank we are today, as Islamic. If I take an example of a completely new bank, Revolut is a completely digital bank. I think they are operating in 24 countries. We'll touch base lightly on that. Revolut versus other banks. So Revolut charges zero for a traveler who's coming from Poland to UK and is spending. It's charging zero fee. Otherwise, the other banks, including the German bank and the Polish bank, they are charging extra money for them. So they are saying sort of, we will discourage you to use our card. That does not make sense, not customer centric, right? So this is what we need to do, and this is where you see customer are more, they are into more positive about Revolut, PayPal, and TransferWise, all those digital only incumbents versus versus us, as an example. So why are we not able to reduce? Why we are not customer centric? Because why we're not able to reduce our operating expenses, because the legacy infrastructure is holding us back. And again, we are not talking about migrating into shutting down our legacy infrastructure, invest millions of dollars and do a multi-year project. We are talking about how can we leverage the existing legacy infrastructure, and how can we start a digital bank over it, and then scale from there. So there's a slow transition going on, and while we are doing it, we are also generating profit, and we are reducing our operating cost. Right, this is very important. So it's not about facelifting things. It's about it's about return on equity, as I was explaining, ROI, ROTA as well. So we need to grow, and inshallah, today we see processes, data, application, technology. They are silos. They're stack of silos. They don't talk to each other. We don't. For example, they don't have a standardized API. I know people will be saying, Fahad, you're talking about API. We have API, but are they standardized API? Do you follow one coding standard, or just like open banking API for your API? Chances are very low, right? Uh, but we know convergence between ever evolving customer readiness, technological evolution, and data abundance is paving way for that, and dramatic shift of business model. We know that we have abundance of data, but it's just like it's in silo, and we are not able to take data driven decision. We are just taking some time, gut based analysis, or some numbers we are crunching, some assumption, mostly assumption, and then trying to roll out a product, and we found out that it's not doing as much we expected. But naturally, if we have data points, we are able to test with the customer, with those customers, products and services, the customer. We are able to test and control test, and then we can have we can reap the benefit, inshallah. So, what are the essential factors of the bank? So, I will spend a few minutes on it because it's very important to understand. I know time is very less, but let's try to wrap it up. What are the essential factors? So, Islamic digital transformation, from this all tangled infrastructure to this more better infrastructure. What are the parameters I need? What are the essential factors I need to start with, right? So it's like here are the foundational thinking I need to do, right? So we need to do cultural shift from sea level down. It's what we all about. We should start turning around the culture. Going into more agile or method. They try to follow some other discipline, just like those companies, tech companies are doing. Apply culture change, and then apply lean and agile Scrum methodology. There are many things like Kanban is there. Other models are other models of lean agile are there. Follow any principle, and then get disciplined. Focus on personalization is very important. Solve customer problem, use data analytics, make customer experience better at all touch points, enable banks to provide tailor-made service to individuals. Focus on personas. Human capital is very important. We need to upgrade human skill set. So it should be transformational, and inshallah, Taif will be offering exciting course just to help those banks and individuals to upgrade and try to build the workforce for the digital world 4.0, 5.0. Learn from the success as we discuss, and leverage on the modern technology. Do not reinvent the wheel. So adopt new technology into existing infrastructure. It is very important because it is very important to apply, for example, API microservice architecture, create robust future proof tech stack, right? Don't do as we discussed, don't do customization, go towards configuration, and ultimately increasing mobility and intimacy across the multiple channels. Once we do it, naturally we are able to do things faster, and we are more flexible. We are future proof. We adopt change very fast. So if market is driving, asking for something, we are able to do it pretty much before even they ask, because we are now sitting on the data. Things are organized. We understand customer sentiments. We are very near to customer, solving those pain points, and we are able to drive the changes pretty fast. So what is the roadmap? Roadmap is a thought process. But remember one thing: don't go into so many planning that you're losing time. Because remember, if you do multi-months, multi-year planning, and we don't start small, and then we are not following small or lean principle where we start small and then grow from there, then we might end up with a new technology. So we are planning on taking assumption of some technology stack, and then one year we spend doing that, and next year there's a new technology. So again we are back to square one. So we need to plan, put together a nice roadmap, start with the cultural shift, put some KPI matrix around it, so you can when you are steering the transformation, you are able to see those inputs like ROE must increase, operating cost must go down, number of staff we should train, they should have this technical skill set, migration of the cloud should be this percentage this year. All those KPI you can do that, and inshallah Taif is available. Discuss with us. We can put together a roadmap for you, just based on your unique situation, because every bank has their unique position, right? It's small, especially when it comes from small to medium, and medium to big bank, different approach. Uh, Apply integration or API first approach. Follow the open API or some structured API framework, so you are able to connect. That's very important. Follow the composable architecture. Once you have a good API hooks host, you can based on microservices, you can compose your target tech stack. Go for cloud. naturally, there will be some. So you will be thinking that regulators are not allowing us, but trust me, talk to regulators, try to put together your plan and present them, and then inshallah they will support you. There are ways to do it. I had a chance to work with the Indonesian regulator very closely, Alhamdulillah, and they are really flexible when it comes to Islamic finance, because our governments and regulators are also supporting Islamic finance growth, right? They want to do aggressively. So if we come up with a solution, I'm sure, inshallah, there will be some way. Um, See this, we need to put together speed enablers there, promote experiments, sense the market dynamics, whatever is changing is happening, realign, reposition our products and services to that. The entire approach should be data driven. Remember that digital banking transformation begins with the quality data. So if we are thinking that we will be able to operate into silos data, then then it's not going to work out. Approach must be data driven, and then so make sure that once you have data, it's not lying there. You use some tool, put together analytics inside, depending on the job position. Executive, for example, should have the metrics, telemetry in front of that. Use AI ops, and inshallah, sometime later, inshallah, we'll try to do AI ops webinar also. Leverage on SaaS as much as you can. Don't go for, if infrastructure is available in the cloud, don't replicate that, right? Use infrastructure as code. Now you can just code infrastructure, and you will have the infrastructure ready. All whatever you need is there. Much robust, with very low latency, with high backup level, more resilient, more robust, more ready for more ready with the cyber security certification, for example. Agile, we discussed. Now one level down, apply the DevOps principle. The culture should be frictionless, because DevOps supports is the only way, I would say, to support the digital initiative at the organization levels. Google, Netflix, Airbnb, they all follow DevOps principle, which is CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous delivery. You are able to experiment, roll out product pretty fast, and inshallah later on we will discuss about. We'll have a focus webinar on DevOps, inshallah. And these are the courses also we're going to be launching. So we understood, what transformation factors are, right? What we need to do. Then we understood what sort of roadmap and we need to put together. Then let's go one level down. Today we are asset heavy. In the roadmap, when we are discussing the asset heaviness of the bank, such as I have multiple system for to deliver multiple services. Now how can I start shifting from that asset heavy to the light platform, the digital platform, which are more decoupled. An example is in the asset heavy world, just like we have a monolith, big application, bulk application, and then if we do some change on one application, it might affect the other application, because they are tightly covered, they are integrated tightly. And remember that tangle diagram. So they are just like it's a mess. But inshallah, there are ways to do untangle it. We can start with decoupling those. So take high priority services and then start decoupling it, and then making them in a small, putting them into a small containers, or which are called microservices. This is what we call microservice architecture. Start putting them into containers, and then they will be decoupled slowly. And again, as I mentioned, that you will be seeing the benefits. Uh, Own the integration layer by building a strong microservice architecture. This is where your digital platform should be going. Then let's comparing the asset heavy architecture today, or infrastructure today versus the digital platform infrastructure. We see that with the asset heavy today we have a linear growth, right? We are not hyper growing, just like the other banks. We will see they are able to hyper growth fast, right? Millions of million customer in years. Uh, but with the digital platform, we are able to have achieve the exponential growth, and I think this is right aligned with with our pressing desire of inshallah growing the Islamic finance asset, right? So this is perfectly aligned with that. So let's discuss about this. Spend some time on what digital next generation digital platform should look like, and and inshallah Taif has some plan in mind, and then I will invite all like mind people to connect with me over the LinkedIn, or some manner. Inshallah, we'll discuss it. So a digital platform should start with the core banking engine. All those, remember, I was telling you, all those asset heavy coupled, tightly coupled application, you should start putting those, taking it out and slowly building microservice architecture. And we will discuss in later on that how technical, for technical guys, or for even for the business executives, that like how is there any way to do that? Yes, there is. We will discuss in a later slide. So first of all, for example, the GL should be IFE compliant. Apply all the GL configuration into that microservice. Then start with Sharia governance framework. Sharia audit logs should be generated. Limit and threshold, user management, maker checker function, reporting engine, standing SIs, beneficiary management, all those. API management, data store, authorization engine, all those will be lying on your core. And this is where it also helps, and it also supports the Sharia governance framework regime, because today Sharia is not into the core, it's more up, right, on the papers and things like that. But when it comes to system, it's like a bit of a hassle because it's all manual. So we start with that, and then out of that we build a ESB. Some people call it ESB, which is the enterprise service bus. Some people call it business process management. I like to call it as a microservice or orchestration layer, which is where you compose everything. And that hey, I need this time I'm calling reporting engine, along with the user management, along with the limits. We are composing it on the fly, and then on top of it, we have the personalization automation layer, where the account origination, authentication, customer specific authentication, credit decisioning based on the customer pricing engine based on the customer persona, custom business logic based on from which demographic customer is coming. Is it a microfinance customer, a small business customer, is a retail customer, wealth management customer? Then what? How can I how can I request those code to compose whatever I need to compose, and then push it to the channels? Now, what are those channels? The channels should be agnostic. So now here we don't have any channel silos. We have a layer, and then channel has everything. So channel could be anything, could be web, could be mobile, could be voice, could be chatbot, watch, or virtual reality. And then next time, God knows what is coming. And but we will be inshallah ready. So this is how we become a future proof, and we are embracing change. We are adaptable to change in days, inshallah, with very less investment. So and then we have a API connector hooks for other ecosystems to join. So new payment processor, new any new fintech comes in, or any new company who's good in AYC, KYC, biometrics detection, they can just connect with us. Regulatory reporting, if you have a vendor who's ready and who does the regulatory reporting much better than us, they can connect. And here we are. We have that. Now the model is efficient because we don't have to worry about the reporting. We need to worry is about the data should be here, it's properly captured, which is beautifully captured, and it's being reported to the regulator. So no garbage data or bad data is going to that. And then we can have agent management. We can do collaborate with fintech, and this is where you are now growing. You are growing your size base. Now from the upward, if you see customer interacting, you are delivering, you are you are acquiring. From down, what you are doing is that you are now navigating into the territory of others. You are going into Hajj ministry, you are going into halal tourism association, business association, schools, colleges, and then you are integrating there, and you are also funneling consumer from here, and they are also connected to your ecosystem. Now your acquisition rate was this, now it's like going this, as we explained. So this is what we propose, inshallah, and then discussion could be at the QA level. I'm almost 41 minutes. So I'll take you another 10 minutes, inshallah. We'll try to conclude. I'm so sorry for that, but I think it's very important. So if you recall, here we were discussing that how the API and those microservice works, and how can I couple it with my legacy infrastructure. So here's the answer. This is architecture of a existing active bank in North America, and I had an opportunity to work in a North American company with Ryan, who's our CTO, and we saw it from we saw it in real terms. So they have legacy infrastructure. They could be a AS400, could be a old Oracle DB based ledger, could be anything. What we need to do is start building microservices on it, and each microservices will be responsible for each function. A function could be transactional, user preference. It could be just a form, just push the forms or some data. It could be it could be something like generate electronic statement, send SMS notification. It could be anything. Then on top of that, we have a reactive payment gateway. Reactive means that reactive API means it's an API which is event driven, and it requires a very small number of threads. So it's not resource intensive. So it will just activate itself when it's needed. So it's not consuming a lot of data. Then we have what you call. Then we have we can also leverage on the third party as serverless. Is based on using combination of AWS. Lambda, Kafka. Kafka is nothing but a stream processing and web activity metric collection system. It do logs aggregation, so you can have all the data into it, and then you can formalize that, structure that data much better way. You can have a notification connected to it, so any event which is driven from here, some transaction happen, you can just drive and send the notification, and this is happening pretty fast. So we'll not go into much technical details, but I'm just what we're trying to explain you that it's doable, it's achievable, it's not a rocket science, it's not complicated as you thought it was, right? Then inside those boxes, like microservices, we have those boxes, right? What is inside that boxes? So as I mentioned, that they are responsible for one task, one functional task. It could be any task. It could be sending SMS, sending email, approving the customer, doing a KYC. So inside that, in the Microsoft service containers, those are containers, right? A box of each service. They could be built into any code language you have. So long gone those days where we were driving it, what, you should just build things on ASP or you should just build on Java. Now we can in the microservice architecture, the team, agile team, a Scrum team can build things, and it will just work, and we don't have to worry what technology or database or whatever they have. And they are responsible using the DevSecOps. They are responsible for their web microservices, and they will be improving it. They have a target of maintaining this as a owner and then improving it. So in that, in Microsoft architecture, for example, we have something like a back pressure, which is if something hangs, something is not working, then it will detect and it will just destroy the server and then create one. Because in cloud, remember, we are not talking about bare metal. There's no physical infrastructure, but it's just like it's like infrastructure on code. Then we have quality of service implanted there. We have traffic management. We have brokers. We have caching. We have circuit breakers. We have just to give you example of, for example, take an example of streaming messages. So what are streaming messages? They are just real time data. For example, rather than if you want to verify a customer, rather than having a data archive, it can just go and check the social profile of the consumer real time and then feed the data in. So all that stuff is there. Back pressure is a lightweight, as I was telling you, it's like a pods. We have something called Docker, and you must have seen this wheel here. So most of the people, mashallah, you might know about Docker. So it's like containerization, and then if the container is not working, you destroy and then move on. So this is how you scale, and the more you scale, the more containers you have. So the latency is maintained also. So again, I don't want to go into much detail. We have very less time now. Almost, we are more than 45 minutes here. So let's quickly see who the neobanks who have leveraged this sort of digital platform or next generation digital platform, where they stand today. So Revolut started something somewhere in January 2015. Just 5 years down the road, they have 6.5 million customer base. Their valuation is 3.5 million. And again, what they have done, and they have taken the best of the technology and they have integrated, and then they have their core business model, which is based on some ambition, some vision they have. Same goes for N26. Started in July 2015, 5.3 million customer base, valuation 5.5. So inshallah, there's a lot there's a lot of benefit. It's a work, but it's a benefit. Uh, so what should we do? What should be our four guiding principle? One guiding principle is that, as I was mentioned, culture. So start with the customer first design thinking. Uh, when we do it naturally, we have to gel in with tightly uh, connect and work with the Sharia government, our Sharia department. apply proper Sharia governance framework, because we need to avoid avoid all sort of processes which are not Sharia compliant. Right, it's from the start of the journey, customer journey, to the level of the booking or financing. So we need to be tightly connected with Sharia governance framework. There should be API strategy and platform. We discuss in details. We should build to change. So whatever technology we procure, we make sure that this technology is future. And then what should we do? We start with DevSecOps. We start organizing ourselves. Go to cloud model first. Apply lean agile principle. Do A/B testing. Generate new revenue stream by leveraging the API we are going to build. So connect with all those ecosystem, and I will show you some example of what are some of the ecosystem. Uh, yeah, this is something, a statement. I will not go into it because we are already done with the time. But customers, first thinking, what is it? So we need to empathize with the customer, do interviews, define the personas of whatever slice dice we have done with the data, ideate it with the peers, share idea, the ideas which are worthy, take them, refine them more, do testing, and then inshallah roll it out. I iterate quickly, improve it, continuously improvement. One of the example of customer first design would be that, as a normal mobile bank user, I will just go, I will just see my checking, savings account, financing, whatever I have. But when we apply personalization, customer centric approach, then if I'm a transactor, if I'm a person of 18 to 21 year old, my cash flow is not much. I'm a more transactor. I'm just paying bill. Then I will see, hey, you know what? If you upgrade your account balance with such amount, then you get a 10% cashback. Right. Other idea is, there's another person who is 22, 32-year-old salaried class customer, good cash flow, frequently deposit money. He's searching and navigating into our savings account and whatnot, but he does not open a savings account now. So can I offer him a Sharia compliant mutual fund? So that's the personalization. He should be able to see it, press that button, and then go inside and apply. Other example could be, I'm 20-year-old salaried class person. 7 day, after 7 day I get my salary, I start paying bill and house rent. That's what I do every day, right? So sometime I'm down in my balance. So I think this is the time I need to have a personal financial system should all detect it based on my personalization engine. The pricing engine should throw me an offer, and then take it. I should be able to apply some of the digital first model. We were talking about the ecosystem, so we can connect with the API we have. We can connect with Muslim Association, Masjid, realtors, fintechs. We can do exciting stuff, and time is not much, but let's see. We need to create a beautiful customer friendly user experience, and avoid just doing cosmetical change, but try to do some real changes in the core architecture, so we are able to deliver it faster. Digitization deliver profits at the last. It's not about just we just invest time and resources and we don't have any benefit. This is the BDO 29 research report. In last 12 months, when they asked bank in last 12 months what benefit you have seen from the digital transformation, 71% said they have seen increased revenue from digital initiative. uh, right. uh, and then 74% say that they have seen the profitability, net margins. In the next, what they foresee, they see 85% anticipate that they increase revenue by 37%, 79% feels that the profitability increase by 40 to 10% or more, right? So it's benefit. Top digital challenges. When we go digital transformation, we must not forget that cyber attacks and data privacy is a thing, and it's happening. It's not about digitization. Even if the legacy infrastructure today, that's a threat. So we need to be very mindful of that. So most of the bankers or the people who were doing transformation said that cyber attacks was one of the major threat, followed by establishing the right metrics for KPIs. Then barrier to implementing the last one was lack of skill. Naturally, human skill is very very important, and we need to work on it. We need to upgrade ourselves, inshallah, and Taif is there. uh, One of the example, I would say, real example of conventional bank, DBS, the Singapore bank. They what they did is that they have a traditional bank and they have a separate platform-based banking, right? So just touch it high level, see the operating expense. If you see the black one here, this is their normal traditional bank like we have, and then they have a digital bank which is red. So we see the operating expenses more than 55% or 54%, right? It's like always increasing, sometimes decreasing. But if you see the digital bank, it started from 40, now it's going down, and it will go down because the more customer you have, the beautifulness about the digital being digital is that the more uh, customer base you have, the more infrastructure cost, operating expense go down, right? uh, Job landscape we see from our angle, inshallah. Taif is working on Islamic fintech course. We are also going to be launching out some good courses in addition to Islamic fintech. You know, digital project management, digital BA, agile, microservice architecture. What is that? API management. How you can do that? Digital transformation. All those, I think, they are for people who are looking into the going entering into or supporting, they want to support Islamic finance digitization. I think they should focus on such courses that we are going to launch. And inshallah, with that, I'm so sorry it took 30 minutes more, but thank you very much. And inshallah, we are open for question answer. Before that, another conversation we should start today is what if I want to start digital transformation, what are my near future goals? How does my Islamic financial institution uh, can change or offer change? Can what customer service, customer experience my organization give? What technologies should I focus on, and how will this affect my enterprise security posture? All those questions we need to ask, and inshallah, let's start Q&A. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening to me. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.